Hello, everyone. This is Michael Gibbs. I'm the founder and CEO of Go Cloud Architects, and I'm very excited to be here with you today to answer any type of cloud computing questions and answers you may have. As you know, we try to come to you several times per week so that you can bring us any types of cloud computing questions you may have. See, I remember 25 years ago when I began my technology career, there were so many things that I wanted to do, and I was so excited to get started, but I just didn't know where to begin. I wanted to be a network engineer, so I studied computers when I should have been learning networking. I had been given all kinds of guidance, and I spent an enormous amount of time, effort, and money just literally trying to start my tech career. I mean, I spent about $30,000 literally trying to start my tech career 25 years ago, and half of that was wasted. And half of the time that I spent was going in different directions because I just didn't know where to go. And for these reasons, that's why we're here to help you in any way, shape, or form to begin your career. Richard Rich, I am so happy to see you're here. Abigail Marks, I'm so happy to see you. Ron John, good evening to you as well. Just so happy to have you here. So to let you know, I've been a cloud architect now or a network architect or an enterprise architect or a business architect now for 25 years. Love these architecture careers. They're some of the best in the world. And see, the thing is, if you're working on becoming a solution architect or a cloud architect or a cloud solutions architect or an enterprise architect or a network engineer, that's fine. It's wonderful. And we want to help you get there quicker. Welcome, Christian. We're so happy to have you here. So, on these formats, we're going to do anything we can to help you. Now, while we're here and waiting for you guys to ask some questions, let me tell you about some fun things that we do. If you haven't been here, just to let you all know, we did a completely free AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate Bootcamp 2 weeks ago. But you can obviously rewatch that completely for free. This Friday, I'm really excited to tell you that I have IT Excel, a premier recruiting firm from New York City, where they have 20 recruiters. They have a national staffing agency, and they've got connections with people all over the world and jobs all over the US and Canada. So again, somebody I'm extremely happy to bring to you guys all to increase your opportunities in the market. As you know, we have a large number of experts that come in, like last Friday, for example. We had a big data expert 2 Fridays ago. We had a VP from NVIDIA come in. A couple of weeks before that, we had a customer success executive, and we're going to continue that. And my team has launched a brand new podcast, and it's coming. Okay, the first questions is coming from 50 Niket Ranjan. How to get fresher jobs as an architect. Okay, great. And this is an area where we have a lot of experience. And actually, while we're here, if I know you're here, just like CEO Trell, if you can let me know if you're here by typing hashtag cloud hired. But let's get to that first question, and it is a great question. How do you get that first cloud architect job? So when it comes to getting that first cloud architect job, there's two approaches. There's the fresher, and then there's the I don't have experience. And while they're related, they're actually not. The I don't have experience working as a cloud architect or working in tech, but I'm still 40 years old and not a fresher. I've worked in business. That is a much easier position than I've just graduated college and I'm a fresher, even though the experience is the same. On paper, the difference of life experience of I've worked and I have experiences that are very relatable to the architect are different. But when you're a fresher, don't worry, you can still get hired, and we do it all the time. In fact, my team actually made a video series a few weeks ago on what to do when you're a fresher, how to get hired. And we talk about how to differentiate yourself. But see, here's the key. When you're a fresher, and for those that are outside the UK or India or other countries where they use the term fresher, for those that are in the US where fresher means fresh out of school, we've got a couple of problems to overcome. The first problem we actually have is we're young. And when we're young, they assume we don't know a lot. Now, there's a way to get around that, I'm going to tell you, but you got to understand the problem before you understand the solution. The next part of the problem is we have no experience. So people look at us with, no life experience, no work experience, and they know what we get taught in school, unfortunately, isn't really related to what we do in real world. But in school, they teach us a few really great things like how to learn. So we like that. So let's just talk about those things. So when you are young, here's what you're, and actually, let's talk about what hiring managers desire first, next, and then I'll give you your answer. Hiring managers first want technical competency. Can you do the job? So competency is different than experience. A 14-year-old that can break into the Pentagon as the security engineer architect I want. I don't want the person that's like 48, let's say I'm 48, but I don't want the 48-year-old that's not an expert on security. I want the 14-year-old hacker. So there's first. Employers want competency. The next things employers desire are people that are trustworthy, that you can really trust. So on an interview, be honest, don't bluff. The next things employers care about are energy and enthusiasm. Guess what? When you are young, guess what? You're energetic and enthusiastic. So if you're looking for your first cloud architect job, even as a fresher, you can still get it. You don't need entry-level jobs first, but you got to be able to do this first. So what did we talk about? We talked about technically competent. We talked about honesty and integrity, energy and enthusiasm. Now, the next thing employers are looking for are, can you bring out the best in others? That is directly related to your emotional intelligence, and it is absolutely essential. After that, employers desire to know that you're a good team player and that you're willing to go above and beyond. So when you are a fresher, and you're going to have to do two things. One is we're going to have to get you technically competent. Two is we must convince the hiring manager that you have that extreme degree of technical competency. That's what we need to do. So we've got to prove that technical competency, good attitude, energy, enthusiasm, and we've got to work with that innateness that you have as a young person, which is that you theoretically learn faster than those of us that are older. So these are those attributes and those knobs that we've got to do to get you hired. So the first thing is getting you competent. Now, competency has zero to do with what's in the certification materials. The AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional does not give anyone the capability to be a cloud architect. In fact, it's about less than 10% of what's necessary to do the cloud architect job. And the reason you can get a job as a fresher as a cloud architect is if you learn all the materials that you actually need to, and you get in front of that hiring manager, they're going to look at you and say, wow. So, and whether you're in India, where people typically need an internship, or whether in the US, we get people hired constantly as a cloud architect or a solution architect as their first job. But there's the but. There's the how much training does it take to be there? And it is a lot. So you need to learn the network and the data center, which is the cloud. There is no way of getting around the network and the data center. The cloud is just a network and a data center. In fact, the cloud is so old, and people want to think it's new. And I'm going to give you the answer how to do this, but I want you to understand the need. Everything that we do in the cloud now, everything is 30-year-old technology. If it's virtualization, that started 50 years ago with IBM. If it's a container, it's akin to a private VLAN that Cisco did 30 years ago. When we talk about Cloud Hub or Transit Gateway, it's a BGP route reflector from 30 years ago. So all this stuff that we do on the cloud is 30-year-old tech from the network and the data center. And all we do as cloud architects is take the stuff from the network and the data center and move it to the cloud, which is a virtualized network and a data center. So you want to get a job as a fresher? Here's what you need to do. First, learn the network and the data center. 2, get extreme knowledge on the following areas of the network and the data center: BGP, OSPF, and with BGP we mean eBGP and iBGP. Then after that, we need NAT and all the use cases for that. After that, we need to understand switching and VLANs and VLAN tagging and trunking and spanning tree and rapid spanning tree. Then on the data center, we need to understand servers and virtualization. Containers, we need to understand. We need to understand load balancers and firewalls and VPN concentrators and proxy servers. We need to understand block storage, object storage, and file storage. I mean, in depth. And then from there, now we need to understand firewalls and IDS systems, Active Directory. And then from there, you need to understand how clouds are built, the control plane of clouds, the data plane. And you really need to build your own cloud. Do this. Then learn business acumen, learn ROI modeling, really build your presentations, your writing skills, and that's how you get a job as a fresher or a senior person. And of course, we're going to get some certifications along the way. Now, I want to tell you what certifications are. Certifications help you get the interview, but they will not help you get a job. So certifications are kind of like a ticket to the party. Now, how you do in the party is up to your knowledge, attitude, energy, enthusiasm, communication skills, executive presence, emotional intelligence. But the certification is that ticket to the party. So when it comes to getting certifications, we're talking about instantly starting with the AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate. Skip the AWS Cloud Practitioner. There is 0 point in ever doing that exam. It takes the average person 2 months, and the average cloud architect earns about $600 a day. So working on that assumption, if it takes someone 2 months to do the Cloud Practitioner, that's $24,000 of lost earnings. There is 0 point of doing the Cloud Practitioner. So recommend first start with the AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate. You can do that very quickly. Knock that out and do the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional, and then figure out one kind of thing that you like in the industry. Maybe it's networking, maybe it's security. Get a certification in that. Now remember, certifications are only 10%. That other 90% is what I just told you about. The knowledge of the network, the data center, the knowledge of architecture and system design, it's not covered in certifications. The ability to document, speak, present, the CXO relevancy, the knowing how to present to the CEO, CFO, CTO. Look, we have a program and we teach it. It's 500 hours for people that don't have any background, and we get them hired all the time. It's 250 hours for people that have a technology background. So you can get these great jobs. You don't have to start with a help desk job or something intro level. You could. It's not a bad experience, but you don't have to. But the key is that's what you need. You need deep, deep, deep knowledge, not wide knowledge, deep, deep, deep knowledge, and the ability to do the job. 15 Acute Ranjan, I hope I've answered your question. And if you want to give me more information, I can always about you or what you like. I can even help you pick a specialty and things like that. But that's what it takes to get started. Those are the things that you need to learn. If you're having a good time, if you can hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And Chris, bring in the next question. And welcome everyone. I see so many friendly names and I'm so happy to see you all. Penza, your question is how and where can you study cloud computing? You're a telecom and ICT engineer. So this is a great question. And the reality is, the reason we actually started this company, because I've been coaching people to get their first tech job or promoted in tech for 20 years, is when I looked out there and I saw what was being taught, I was literally horrified. I was going to teach someone cloud computing. I've been working in cloud computing forever. I mean, the first cloud I worked on was Frame Relay, and the next cloud was ATM, and this was before 2000. And then there was the BGP 2547 cloud, and then there was the VPLS cloud, and these clouds. So I've been in this forever. So when I saw what existed, and here's the courses that are out there, here's the name of the service and how to configure it. Now, as architects, we don't configure anything in the first place, and knowing the name of the service and how to configure it is almost better than useless. It's like giving a doctor a bottle of pills and saying, here's your pills. You can give these out, but we're not going to teach you how to diagnose the patient, and we're not going to teach you what the dosages should be, and we're not even going to teach you what conditions the pills should be used for, but here's a bunch of pills, go hand them out. So that's why we have our Cloud Architect Career Development Program, which is a 16-week program, assuming someone has a tech background like you, to turn you into a cloud architect. Now, that's the only way that we know how to do it. Outside of us, what I can tell you is to learn the network and the data center. And basically speaking, if you're with us, you'll be in great shape. If not, make sure you have real knowledge of that network. And what I mean by that is I mean BGP and BGP traffic engineering and all the different ways you can actually route, for example. So I would say everything in that Internet Routing Architectures book by Bassam Halabi is necessary, minimum knowledge. I would also say almost everything in that Routing TCP/IP book by volumes 1 and 2 by Jeff Doyle are necessary. And almost everything in the Stevens CPI book is also necessary. I would then say, since there's really not out there to really teach you cloud computing, and I take people from these master's degree programs in cloud computing every day, and then I get them hired, and I take people out of these 2-year programs. And the problem is you've got to figure out what it is you actually want to do in cloud computing and then pick your specialty, because they're all different. And cloud computing is no different than just a network and a data center. It's just virtualized. So where people become really get themselves in trouble is they so want to learn the cloud, or they so want to learn AWS. The cloud's just a network and the data center. So learn load balancers, and you'll be going to Azure, AWS, the data center. Learn object storage. Go to Dell EMC and IBM and learn object storage, and it's going to work in the data center, Azure, AWS, or Google. You want to learn how firewalls work? Go learn how firewalls work from Cisco and Palo Alto and Fortinet and Checkpoint if you're interested. This is where you get your knowledge of cloud computing. This is why, when I train cloud architects to get hired, this is why CCIE experts get hired as cloud architects without even learning the cloud, because the cloud is just a network and a data center that's virtualized. I mean, literally, that is it. Just a virtualized network and a data center. So become an expert on the network and the data center, you're an expert on the cloud. Now, so what can I say? I can say, Kenzie, you could take our course and you will do well. If you are not, Global Knowledge has some very good networking and data center courses. After the networking and data center courses that Global Knowledge would provide, you could do our completely free AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate training. The link is in the description below. We have a completely free AWS Advanced Networking course. The link is in the description below. We have a completely free AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional course. The link is in the description below. And if you've got a great knowledge of the network and the data center, those courses will be very helpful. But certification courses are different than actually what's going on with learning it. So learn cloud computing by learning the network and the data center, or take our program. And once you know the network and the data center, then you can easily just attach these very simple services, which are just virtualized network and the data center services. That's how you make the transition, and you can be great. Chris, if you'd like to bring in the next question. Jordan Bridgewater, so nice to speak with you today. Uchina, is having a Cloud Practitioner certificate a start on your way to the certified? Uchina, it absolutely is. Now, if you'd started with us, we would have recommended not doing that. I'm going straight to the Certified Solution Architect. Now, Uchina, here's one of the things we do with our students. Now, our students get, really emerged deep into tech. So for our students, the Certified Solution Architect Professional, which every one of my students graduates in, it's a pretty easy exam for my students because we give them so much knowledge. But what I would say is, in many cases, if you've already done the Cloud Practitioner and the Certified Solution Architect Associate are plus or minus within 5 to 10% of each other's content. Now, when we're dealing with AWS has a great way of taking really simple things and making them very complicated on exams. AWS and the writing ability, or at least the way they write, is a very wordy, very fluffy, very hard to understand style. So if you were to study for the Solution Architect Associate, even though you're already a Cloud Practitioner and it's almost the same exam, it's probably going to take you 2 months to study for basically the same exam anyway, just because of the way they write their questions. So because you've done that Cloud Practitioner, you might consider going straight from the Cloud Practitioner to the Certified Solution Architect Professional. Save yourself those 2 months. Remember, every day that you're not working as a cloud architect is costing you a small fortune. An average cloud architect earns approximately $600 per day, and a really good one can earn 2 to 3 times that every single day. So if it takes you 2 months to actually study for the Certified Solution Architect Associate because you've already done the Cloud Practitioner, that's a net loss of $24,000 to you, at least in terms of opportunity cost. So if you know that Cloud Practitioner well, go straight to the Certified Solution Architect Professional. Is it a start? Yes. The AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional, in our mind, is 10% of what's necessary to get Cloud Architect hired or Solution Architect hired. So it is definitely a start. It is a great start. And you know what? We've got a completely free Certified Solution Architect Associate-like course. Link is in the description below. And the reason I say associate-like is we cover halfway between the associate and the professional, but we start at ground zero. So when I get people from other programs and they've just learned the name of the service and how to configure it, we start people at ground zero because we want you to actually learn it all so you know it, so you can actually do the job. See, there's no point in getting certified if you can't get hired. So at least if you do ours, it'll help bridge the gap between that certification knowledge and what we actually do. So, Uchina, I hope I answered your question there. It is a great start where you're at. Keep going. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, like Copernicus said. And I got to tell you, that's that first step. That's the hardest one. Once you've knocked out that first step, like you've done, keep moving forward. Move forward, move fast, move hard, and you'll achieve anything that you desire. So good job, Uchina. Just keep the momentum up. Christian, what entry-level jobs can you take before working as a cloud architect? That is a really great question. You can take any job you want. So, and here's the reason I say this. My first job was a senior engineer, and I was a lead architect within 6 months. Do you know what I did before that? I practiced internal medicine. That's it. I've had people that worked as software developers, which are 100% completely unrelated to cloud architects, and the cloud architect job was the first one. I've had a lot of sales reps that never worked in tech before, and their first tech job was like a solution architect. I've had people from every walk of life, and their first job was a cloud architect or a solution architect. So Christian, I think we have to ask the question differently. The question is not what could you do before the career that you desire. The question is, how do you become capable and great at the career you desire so you can go do the career you desire? And here's the thing. I practiced medicine. Well, what I learned in school taught me some medicine. I was a firefighter paramedic where I learned a little medicine, but I got to tell you, there were no other jobs that prepared me for medicine like medicine at all. I mean, seriously, at all. So learn architecture. So now people ask, like, what if I do this job? What if I do this job? Well, here's what we do as architects. We meet with clients, we ask clients questions. From the clients' questions and the things we ask the clients about their business, then we determine ways that we can transform their business with technology. So this is our world. Lots of questions. After we ask the questions, we obtain a lot of information. After we obtain the information, we take our business knowledge, our technology knowledge, and then we go back and think. And then we say, okay, with what we know about business and what we know about tech, how can we transform that organization with technology? And then we start designing the technology modules. Okay, we need servers, we need GPUs, we need storage, we need this, we need that. Then after that, we build a design. Then after we pick the design, then we pick the services we need from which vendor. Could be AWS, GCP. And that's kind of the last part. So why do I say this? So that's what we architects do. You know what cloud engineers do? After I design something, I hand them the thing and say, go build this. So the engineer is behind the computer all day long. So while they're behind the computer building stuff on their computer, typing feverishly away and coding, I'm designing. Now, is building the same as designing? No. Because, for example, if you were a cloud engineer, which is like a construction worker in the building equivalent, let's take the architect world of the house. I've trained a person to be trained to be a building architect. They don't work as a construction worker first, they learn design. So architects are all systems designers. So the best job to take on the way to being an architect is an architect. Now, what other jobs are, and if you get the right training, you can take an entry-level job as an architect. But now, if you don't, what entry-level jobs are going to help you be an architect? Well, anything where you're going to be talking to people on the phone or in person is going to help you. So any kind of pre-sales work, like a sales engineer would be good. Then again, a sales engineer is effectively an architect. So that would be helpful. Anything where you're doing sales would be helpful as an architect. Anything where you're going to present a lot would be helpful for you as an architect. So it's not exactly the job title, it's more the job function. As architects, we write a lot, we speak a lot, and we present a lot. So anything in any one of those fields would help you. Some people can derive some benefit from help desk. And while I've never started any of my students in help desk ever in the last 2 decades, there are some benefits from help desk, meaning when people call you and you're on help desk and they're on the phone, they're screaming like this is blah, 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 blah. And then you've got to be there and be the emotionally intelligent person and say, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, thank you so much for calling. I am here to help you. Those lessons learned from help desk are amazing. An expert, someone that's worked in sales that knows how to ask their client the right questions, again, advantaged. Someone that has a network engineer background, Christian, will know exactly how to do half of these things on the cloud. Someone that's got a data center engineering background will, again, know what all these things are on the cloud. But if you're talking about what jobs make you great at being an architect, architect jobs make you great at being an architect. You want to be a gold medalist sprinter? Sprint. You want to be a gold medalist swimmer? Swim. You want to be a gold medalist gymnast? Do gymnastics. So you don't necessarily have to take these unrelated jobs. Make your profile so good. Be so capable. Be so competent. Be so likable. Build so much executive presence, emotional intelligence, and have such an attitude that when you go interview with that hiring manager for a more senior role, they just hire you on the spot because they don't have any choice. I've interviewed with 5 companies. I've been hired by all 5 companies. My students get interviewed and hired very easily. Be what the hiring manager wants. So those are the entry-level jobs you could take. Although I say, don't just look for entry-level. Look for more mid-level. Make yourself more mid-level. Upscale. And why is it so hard to get an entry-level job now? Let's talk about the macro and microeconomic factors that are going on. The economy right now is not good. Who do you need in a bad economy? Someone that's independent that can do the job on their own, or an entry-level person that you hire that you have to supervise and dedicate some of your expensive personnel to train? See, when you hire a new person, you might have to dedicate a third of a full-time resource to training that person. And right now that's tough. So upskill yourself, get better, train to be the best, upgrade your knowledge, upgrade your certifications just to get the interview, no more than that, upgrade your capabilities, upgrade your business acumen, communication skills, executive presence, and go get something much better. And you can do it every time. So that's my advice for you, Christian. Remember, entry-level jobs, there's a whole lot less of them. Why are there less of them? The economy's bad, but guess what else? Entry-level jobs used to be, we hire someone, they buy a server, they put the server in the rack, they screw it in, they put the operating system on. Cloud computing made 80% of the entry-level jobs go away. So don't look so hard for an entry-level job. Upskill yourself. Take a program like ours or study on your own, get really great, and go get hired. Your career will thank you. Chris, please feel free to bring on the next one. Hi, Brandon. How are you? Happy Wednesday. It's really great to see you. That's exactly the key, Brandon. Certifications help your resume move up. Certifications are your admission ticket to the interview party. Now, once you get to that interview party, it's up to your training. The better your certifications, the better your ticket to the party. Now, once you get to that party, it's up to you and your level of training and your level of communication skills, your level of executive presence, and your attitude to get hired and how likable you are. But yes, those certifications will help you get that interview. So that's why we're very focused on which ones, because we've got to get the right certifications to get the right interview, the right certifications to convince the hiring manager we look good, and not get the wrong certifications to have the hiring manager not have any idea what we are. So 100% agree with you, Brandon. They are the admission ticket. They are the ticket to the party. Suresh Taka, for a multi-cloud architect being a specialist in migration and adoption area. Can I please cover this area for training or webinar Q&A in coming months? So Suresh, the answer is yes. When I train our students in the Cloud Architect Career Development Program, every single one of them does multi-cloud. As far as I'm concerned, there is no such thing as single cloud. That was kind of like, the introductory thing in the beginning, kind of like, many years ago. I remember my friend Moses, one of the nicest, smartest people I've ever met. I remember Facebook had just come out and he was taking pictures of his dinner and pictures of his house and pictures of literally everything there. And it was cool and he loved the tech. And I remember saying, one day, Moses, you'll see this is going to be more than that. And he says, oh, I know. I'm just loving the tech. And I was here like, I got my black and white BlackBerry. It's got a keyboard. I'm loving it. And, as time changed, I changed with the industry for what was there. So, the initial cloud days of, hey, stick it on AWS, that reminds me of the beginning. It also reminds me of the beginning of the internet, when you had one internet service provider and you were lucky enough to get dial-up. In today's world, you would never have a single network connection. You would never have a single cloud. So the answer is yes, we cover this in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. Every one of my students knows how to work on every single cloud, anywhere, anytime. Can I do a free training webinar covering some multi-cloud things, maybe some multi-cloud networking? The answer is sure, Suresh. I'm sure we can do a free multi-cloud kind of thing. Chris from my team will take note of that. And actually, while we're at it, Chris from my team has made the suggestion, and it's going to be implemented very soon. What we're going to do is we are going to have on our website an opportunity for you to vote on 1 or 2 videos every single week, which we're going to custom make for you based upon what you desire to learn about. So Suresh, the answer is yes, we can and will cover something on this very, very soon. Either it'll be a video or it'll be like a 4-hour webinar. I'm not really sure. I have to go back and talk to my team. I may be the CEO, but there's all about 50 things that I think I can possibly do inside of the next hour, but it all needs to go back to the reality team and say, of all the people in my team, who can produce what, who can edit what, who can provide content for what. So, we will do something. And the answer is, I just don't know when, but I wanted to let you know that on our site, you're going to be able to join our site, vote for the videos, and we will custom make videos, at least 1 video per week based upon your desires of of the videos on our list. So yes, we will cover this, and we will be thrilled to. And if you guys can hit the like button, tell other people to join our channel. We're trying to grow this company, trying to share this. Would you know that over 100,000 people now have taken our free AWS training? How magical is that? I get emails. Yesterday I got 3 emails. One person told me they got hired. 2 people told me they passed their jobs on the basis of some of our free training. Now, the people in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program tell me every day they got hired. But people that are just out there getting free, when I get these messages, it's also pretty amazing. So it happens every single day. That's why we're here, answering your questions to keep you from wasting years and years going down the wrong path. For example, people ask me every day which skills to learn, and sometimes they ask me skills which aren't related to the career. So if we can keep you on the right path, you'll get there faster. Shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, and I want you to all have the best cloud architect or solution architect or enterprise architect or cloud solution architect. And if you're like me and you like business architect jobs too, I want you to know how to get them as well. So whatever it takes to get you to your goals. Chris. Ali Mahmoud. Hi, Mike. After getting the associate certification, what steps to do in order to become a good cloud architect? Well, Ali, here's my recommendation. First, I don't know your background. If you have a strong background, like a CCIE background or a strong data center background or a heavy BGP, heavy OSPF, heavy traffic engineering background, then you're going to be good to go. Ali, if you are not from the network and the data center and you have not done network and data center architecture work, here is what you're going to need. First, you're going to need to get deep knowledge of the network and the data center. And I don't mean a little knowledge, I mean a lot of knowledge. I mean knowledge of routing and routing protocols. At minimum, that means EBGP and IBGP. At minimum, it includes OSPF and quite possibly intermediate systems to intermediate systems. It also includes software-defined networking from the routing traffic engineering kind of perspective. Above that, from the network side, it's also going to be critical to know. You're going to need to know switching. You're going to need to know virtualized LANs, VLANs. You're going to need to know VLAN tagging. You need to understand like .1Q tagging, Q and Q tagging, Ethernet over MPLS. You've got to understand that whole kind of Ethernet frame and ARP, kind of those kind of things that are going on there at minimum. You must have real knowledge in IP addressing and subnetting and supernetting. And I don't mean the basic level. I mean the kind of actually design an IP and addressing scheme for an organization with, say, 100,000 people easily, because that's some complicated addressing. You must understand spanning tree, rapid spanning tree, and all those other, you must understand private lines or direct connections or express connect, depending upon what they're called, and the vendor. You need to understand VPNs and IPsec technologies. You must understand the difference between internet kind of connections and the way they route versus private lines and private things. You must have a good understanding of QoS from the network, 802.1x, for example. And, NAT, both, one-to-one NAT, one-to-many NAT, static NAT, dynamic NAT, and all the use cases in NAT is not just connecting to the internet. Then you need to understand servers and server virtualization and firewalls and VPN concentrators and IDS, IPS systems. Then after that, containers and server virtualization we mentioned. You've got to have a good knowledge of Active Directory. You've got to have a good knowledge of actual cloud technologies. All my students actually build clouds, because you really should know how to build a cloud from scratch, and you should know how the cloud works. You should understand in the cloud, the control plane that actually orchestrates the cloud and where your little virtual machines are popping up or not. You should understand the forwarding plane in the cloud. This is just now for the infrastructure. Then you should have a good knowledge of databases and a good knowledge of, 3-tier type web apps. And then that's the technical piece. Now, after the technical piece, we need to focus on the business piece. The business piece means you must be able to ask an organization about their business, which means you must know how to read a financial statement. You must be able to look at that financial statement, speak to that CEO, which means business acumen, and ask that CEO what their business goals are, about their legal environment, their regulatory requirement, and pain points. You then need to be able to reach into your knowledge as a business executive and then be able to come up with a solution that's going to improve that business's metrics. You then need to have the team and be able to lead the team of people that are going to baseline that company's systems to figure out what they are, and then you're going to have to learn. Then you're going to have to design the end-to-end solution. Now, that end-to-end solution you're kind of working on could take days, weeks, months to actually design. And that baselining process could be 6 hours to 6 months, and it could take as little as a half a person and as many as 100 people just to figure it out. So you're going to need those kind of leadership skills to guide that team. Then after you've guided that team and led that team, you're going to have to present the design back to the customer and help sell the design back to the customer. So this is the job. So what do you need to do? Develop business acumen, communication skills, emotional intelligence, executive presence. Next, we've got to upgrade the certification to a certified solution architect professional, which is nothing. Honestly, we could do that in 2 days if we chose to with the right kind of preparation, but all my students do it. It's really nothing. But that's necessary, Ali Mahmoud, to get there. It is not hard to get there. It's just learning the right things. Note the things that I didn't say. There's no coding. You never heard me mention CLI, API, Terraform, automation at all. Those are the jobs for different kinds of engineers. We are architects, not engineers. So those are the next steps, Ali Mahmoud. We cover all of that in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. All those things that I told you about, that business acumen, the asking the right questions, the system design, the knowledge of the network and the data center, that is the realm of architects. Engineers are completely different. Engineers are configuring things, so they may code, they're building things. We are designers. And that's why our skill set of the cloud architect is so different than the cloud engineer. The cloud engineer needs all the tools to build it. We need all the tools to ask the right questions to even get the information. Then we need the design skills to design it, and you can't design what you don't understand. So for our world, it's more theoretical in the how stuff works category as opposed to the how to do stuff. And then after we design it, we must present it. So Ali Mahmoud, that is the way to actually get there. And if you do that, you will be rewarded with a career that you can't even imagine. I get recruited for 3+ jobs per day. And the only reason people even know I exist is either via reputation, LinkedIn posts, or YouTube videos. There are so many amazing architect jobs. Just make sure you train for architect skills. There are architect skills. And I just wanted to make sure that you knew that. And that's why, because I want you to be wildly successful. So if your guys are having fun, if you can hit Cloud Hired in the window or hit the like button. And if you've got deeper questions, Ali, I would love to answer them for you. Uchenna, you have a background in sales and customer success. Fantastic. You hear a lot of competing stuff with no clear path to begin. You want to become a cloud architect. Well, Uchenna, I'll give you 2 options. Option 1 is to take our course, and in 16 weeks to 32 weeks, based upon how much tech background, you will be cloud architect hired, and you will do great. If you are not with us, I'm going to go back to that same thing. Now, go back and learn all of those things that I just told that last person about with regards to the network and the data center. After you do those things in the network and the data center, make sure you learn all that system design that we're talking about. And then realistically speaking, you're kind of there. So again, it's knowledge of the network and the data center. That's the thing, Uchenna. And the reason it matters is the cloud is just a network and a data center. That's it. But you can't take something from one location and move it there. So you want to transition by doing the following: learn the network and the data center, learn the cloud. So again, it goes back to learning routing, learning switching, learning all those networking components, learning about servers and server virtualization and containers, because that's your compute on the cloud. After you learn that, it's about learning storage. And we're not just talking about like the name of object storage being S3. We're talking deep storage. So I'll actually be more, give you a little more details because, I tell people here's the 2 ways. You could take ours and it's all covered. If you don't take ours, you could buy the following books, and this will give you a third or half of what you need on networking. You could buy the Routing TCP volumes 1 and 2 by Jeff Doyle. The 2-page books together, about 2,000 pages, about $200, but it'll give you some of the knowledge. Then you could buy the book Internet Routing Architectures by Bassam Halabi. Great book. It's about $50, about 500 pages, pretty short. It'll teach you the BGP. Then after that, you can buy it's a Stevens TCP/IP book. It's about 1,000 pages. It'll teach you some of the basic IP stuff. It's an older book, but it's there. Then after that, and then again, it's all included in our program. But if you're not with us, after you do that, the next thing you need to do is you've got to learn virtualization. How are you going to learn virtualization? If I was you, I will go to VMware. I would go to KVM and QEMU, which are the Linux virtualization hypervisors, for about 1,000 pages to learn that. I would then do the same thing for containers. I would learn containers from Docker, I'd learn containers from Kubernetes, and I'd learn Docker going back to VMware. And again, that would teach me about 1,000 pages, I'd learn Kubernetes. And after that, then I would learn firewalls. I would go to Checkpoint, I would go to Palo Alto, I would go to Cisco, I would go to Fortinet for about 1,000 pages. I'd learn firewall. I would do that same process for about 1,000 pages on IDS systems. I would do that same thing on VPN concentrators. Then I would do the same thing on block storage, object storage, and file storage. You know where I would get that information for those 500 to 1,000 pages? Very simply, I would go to Dell EMC and I would go to IBM. They're the storage people. And then when you're done that, I would do the same thing for Microsoft and Active Directory. Then I would go learn about NFS, and I would do that from Sun Microsystems. I would do the same thing for Samba, and I would learn it from that way. You got to know DNS and real well, so I would go to F5 for DNS, and you really need to know load balancers. So again, 500 to 1,000 pages from F5, you'll learn load balancers. That's kind of how you learn that stuff. Now the next component is system design. Uchina, you could take it in our course, or you could learn system design. System design is not cheap to learn. There are people that teach it. You could take a system design course. Design is different than configuration. Design is how do you design the systems to work together. Configuration is how to build them. And then after that, if you have enough of a background in sales, meaning you've done billion-dollar deals and you've done a few $100 million deals, you need no more sales training if you're already in sales. If you are not, and you've never done ROI modeling, and you've never done like the expected value of an opportunity compared to the value of the opportunity if you win, and you've never done that back to an organization, you're going to need to learn some ROI modeling. Make sure you've got those presentation skills. Again, you're presenting to CXO audiences and tech audiences. So you've got to learn how to speak to the elite leaders in the organization, for which you've got 2 minutes to get them to convince your point. Then you've got to deal with the VP and director level management, and then you've got to deal with the engineers and the architects that work for the company. So this is kind of the thing. It's not hard to transition at all. For those of us that specialize in transitions, where people have a hard time is they want to learn the cloud and they learn to code, and they want to be an architect, and architects don't code. Or what they want to do is they want to learn the cloud and they decide to learn AWS or Azure instead of learning the cloud. If you learn the cloud, you can work on all of it. If you learn AWS or just Azure, you're in trouble. If all you know for object storage is S3, and then you have to deal with a customer that's got object storage in their data center, first, you can't have the conversation. But if all you know about object storage is that it's S3, what do you do when your customer wants to go to Google or when they want to go to Azure? So if you learn object storage and the traits and the tenets of object storage, whether it's Microsoft Azure Blob, AWS S3, or GCP Cloud Storage, it's irrelevant to you. So the key is all of these things. Why do people get stuck? People make the cloud funny. It's like instead of learning how to drive a Mercedes and then taking special training to drive a Honda, just learn how to drive a car. So Uchina, that's why people are making the cloud so complicated. It is so simple. It's a network and a data center that's been virtualized. Learn the network and the data center. Learn the equivalent services on the cloud, and you can work at any cloud provider, and it's easy. Why you hear a lot of things? Because there's very few of us out there that are actually architects. I've been an architect for 25 years. I bring in recruiting people every Friday for the same reason, because I want you to hear from architects and the people that hire them, not the people that are making the certification courses that have never been architects in their lives. That's the difference. We've actually been architects, and we're not just somebody sitting in our house with a webcam that we bought for 50 bucks. I've been doing this for 25 years as an architect. I've been helping others for 2 decades get their first tech job, and we have a team of people. We have 250 recruiters that we talk to constantly. We speak to hiring managers constantly, so we know exactly what you need. So our things are based upon science. Uchama, go do it. Go transition. It will be the best thing you ever did. When I left medicine and I went into tech 25 years ago, it was the best thing I ever did. I love tech, or I wouldn't be doing this. Welcome to tech. It's exciting. If you want to work with us in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program, and I know Chris posted some specialty coupons, great. If not, please take this opportunity of the information we gave you to go study and succeed, and we'll be happy either way. Happy to answer more questions, Uchenna. Otherwise, Chris, please feel free to bring up the next lesson. So you guys can hit the like button and type hashtag Cloud Hired in the window. We know you're awake, alert, and oriented, and that you're paying attention. Oh, it looks like there's some other things. If you're actually asking about areas of sales, okay. Maybe I misunderstood the question because they're coming in too quickly. My team is saying, so if you have a background in sales, this is excellent and you desire to go to sales. So, Uchenna, it's going to be one of the same situations. When it comes to sales, meaning these kind of sales, and I want to let you guys know, technology sales like this is an extremely good job. And it can pay very, very well to the point where people can pay for yachts and houses in cash with some of the commission checks very frequently. So tech sales is great. Now, here is the difference between the tech sales and the non-tech sales. Because remember, for us, we take people of every background and we make them all successful. It really doesn't matter. But when you've got experience in sales and you want to tech sales, I want you to take the same description that I gave you for an architect and just change it. In tech sales, you can be less technical than the architect. The architect's 50% technical, 50% executive. The sales executive is 25% technical and 75% executive. So, Uchenna, I want you to do the same thing. I want you to still learn the network and the data center. Why the network and the data center? Because that's what you're going to be transforming. But now I want you to focus more on business acumen, more on communication skills, more on executive presence, more on emotional intelligence, more on CXO relevancy. How do you do the intuitive leader versus the functional leader versus the analytical leader? Spend more time on ROI modeling. Spend more time on visual, auditory, kinesthetics. See, it's pretty much the same thing. And the difference is once you get out of that engineering and you start getting into these architect worlds, whether you're an architect or sales, you're still going to be doing a lot of sales. So in sales, focus more on the business, focus more on the transformation of the business, focus more on the financial metrics of the business, revenue and expenses. But really, the kind of preparation is almost the same. The difference is more on the business side and less on the technology side. And Uchenna, do you know how you're going to work? In these worlds, you'll be you, the sales rep. You will have a very smart technical person with you, typically a pre-sales cloud engineer. And you know what that person is like? It's like a solution architect. And then you'll have Uchenna, somebody like me, typically speaking, as a senior or principal or distinguished cloud architect that can go help your pre-sales people if and when needed. So there are tremendous opportunities in sales for people, and the associate is more than enough for sales. But you must show that you understand the network and the data center, because without knowledge of the network and the data center, you can't help that organization with the transition. So you'll typically be in good shape with that. Apologies if I misread the question the first time. To become a good okay, so the next question is, to become a good cloud architect, do you learn to learn programming or DevOps? No. In fact, if you learn programming and DevOps, it will hurt your architect career chances. Here is the thing. When you're a cloud architect and you lack experience, you need a good brand. And if your brand is DevOps, your brand is DevOps. If your brand is programming, your brand is programming. And if your brand is architecture, your brand is architecture. So programming is not a useful skill as an architect. I've been an architect for over 25 years. I have never programmed anything in my entire life. The architects that I know working at AWS, working at Google, working at Azure, working at Palo Alto's cloud, they don't code. Architects do not code, so you don't need to code. Now, DevOps is another career, and it is a great career, but it is not architecture. Let's make it clear for what the roles are. We architects are systems designers. We design. After we design it, we hand it over to a team of cloud engineers. The cloud engineers build it. So cloud engineers know how to are configuring things, they're scripting, they're coding. Cloud engineers, yes, need to code. Now, after we design it as a cloud architect or a solution architect, they hand it to a cloud engineer who builds it. Then once it's built, you need people to maintain it. So the maintenance people are called sysops. They're maintenance people. So if you want to be an architect, don't get a brand as a maintenance person. It's not good for your brand. It's a great brand to be a maintenance person if you want to be a maintenance person, but again, not good for your architect brand. And finally, the last part of this that we're really going to talk about is DevOps. DevOps is automating software release cycles or automating builds or automating deployments. So see how they're far apart from each other? It's kind of like the pilot versus the person that cleans the airplane. They're so far apart from each other. So if you basically have the pilot which is kind of like your cloud architect. And you've got your flight attendants, which are kind of like your cloud engineers that are making sure everybody's safe on the plane. The person that does all the audit when the plane lands and you've got mechanics maintaining the plane, that's like the equivalent of sysops. And the people that make sure that all the planes could be out there all on time, that would be like your DevOps people. So now you know the difference between these roles. And if you know the right roles and you know what to study for, you can be there. Like I said, if you had no background, you can become a cloud architect. And if you got a big tech background, you can become a cloud architect. It doesn't matter. Do you know what matters is the will inside you to learn, how hard you're willing to study, the desire that you have. If you want it bad enough, you can do it. So no, you don't need to learn programming and DevOps. But in fact, on tomorrow, we'll have a how to get your first cloud architect job webinar. Chris from my team can put the link. We'll tell you everything you need to learn. But you don't need to learn programming and DevOps, and you can have a wonderful career. Does certification help in getting a job as a cloud architect? The certification helps you get an interview, only an interview. And it's your knowledge that helps you get hired. So yes, having a certified solution architect professional is helpful on the way to getting an interview. No, it will not get you hired. What will get you hired is your technical knowledge, your depth of knowledge, your business acumen, your communication skills, your attitude, your energy, your executive presence. That's what's going to get you hired. But the certification will get you that interview. Without that interview, there's no getting hired. So yes, go get that certification. It will help you. Samia, you're listening to our How to Become a Solutions Architect on laptop while attending your live on my phone. That is really funny and fantastic. I wish I had the skills to listen to two things at once. I don't, but you know what I do? I listen to audiobooks when I drive, which, well, I haven't had an opportunity to even leave my house to drive at all, and as long as I can remember. But, when I actually had the opportunity and the time to do these things, that's exactly what I used to love to do. So thank you, Simia. We're just so happy to have you here. So Diego, for someone who knows nothing about technology and wants to learn from the cloud, what is the best way to learn the cloud? Well, the best and easiest, fastest way for someone to learn the cloud with no background is take our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. And 4 months later, you'll know a lot about the cloud, and 8 months later, you'll be hired. But outside of that, what I would say is learn about the network and the data center. When you know the network and the data center, you know the cloud. Now, I wish, outside of us, that there were people that actually provided what I consider to be cloud training. But I'm yet to see it. All I've seen is here's the name of a service and here's how to configure it. But none of that really explains the cloud. So I just really want to make it clear. The cloud is a network and a data center, Diego. So that means that everything that exists in the cloud is all network stuff. So routers and switches and firewalls, all network stuff. Or at least routers and switches, all that stuff is part of the cloud. So all the BGP, all the routing tables, all the NAT, all the IP addressing, all the DNS, DHCP, ARP, IPsec, VPNs, direct connections, NAT. It's all networking. So you got to learn that. What is the cloud? The cloud is servers. So servers are physical devices that have CPUs and memory and drives and networking. So that's the component. What is virtualization? It's a server with a hypervisor that virtualizes it. What is a container? It's basically virtualizing an operating system to, not exactly, but enabling multiple isolated things to run on the same operating system. So when you start talking about all these kinds of things, now you're actually learning what is the cloud. What is a load balancer, which is a device that promotes availability and performance? That's the cloud. So it's not like you can just learn Linux. Learning Linux is an operating system. It's not like you can just learn how to use a Mac and understand the cloud. The cloud is a network and a data center. That's it. There's nothing more to this cloud. With everything, elastic block storage, Amazon Simple Storage, object storage, elastic compute cloud, virtual machine. Strip all the marketing speak and know exactly what it is. Route 53, no, it's DNS. There's an RFC, or request for comments, which is the spec on DNS. You could have read it 20 years ago. It's the same thing. You want to learn BGP, you can read the book, Internet Routing Architectures, or you can look at the RFC. I could tell you private IP addresses are 10.0.0/8, 172.16.0.0/12, or 192.168.0.0/16, or you could just read RFC 1918. In either case, it's there. Now, if you read RFC 1918, it's going to be 100 pages long or something crazy to figure it out. If you're in my class and I taught you that, you could do it. But if you want to learn the cloud, learn the network, learn the data center, and you will know the cloud. It's identical in every way. It's just virtualized. Brandon, exactly. How to learn the cloud, build it, break it, fix it. And every one of my students actually builds a cloud. Why do I want my students to build a cloud? For that same reason, we just got that great question. How do I learn the cloud? You know what? And I'm not mechanical, but I've got some really good mechanical friends. And every time they do stuff around the house for me, because I don't know how to use a screwdriver, I like hyperventilate at the thought of a screwdriver. It terrifies me. I've been trying. I love it. I'm fascinated by mechanical things. And if you've ever met someone that's bad with a screwdriver or a wrench or a hammer that'll hit themselves instead of the nail, well, that's me. I wish it wasn't, but that's me. But every time my friend Ted comes and he does something, I'm watching. The geek and the engineer that's still left in me watches, and I'm like, okay, that's really cool. And then he said, so, learn it, build it, fix it, break it. You know how we learn things in healthcare? We see it, we do it, we teach it to someone else. In martial arts, you know how I got good at things? Like Bruce Lee said, I fear the man that practiced one kick 10,000 times, not the man that practiced 10,000 kicks one time. I practiced a lot of kicks 10,000 times. So build it, break it, fix it. Excellent advice from Brandon. Brandon's also a fantastic cloud architect. Brandon's also a friend. So excellent perspective, Brandon. Rahat Varma. Excuse the sniffling. I'm allergic to my cat, who I love. You're 3x AWS certified. Okay, and you're working in a company as a cloud intern and getting hands-on experience in the cloud, and will be graduating in 2022. And a cloud support associate. So you suggest the path. I'd say the first path is to not focus on certifications, but to focus on getting deep. Get some knowledge of the network and the data center, and that way you'll be able to troubleshoot things. What are you going to be troubleshooting? You're going to be troubleshooting servers and switches and load balancers and network devices. So if you want to be good at it, get used to these things. Now, what else needs to matter, Mr. Varma? If you're going to do support, you're going to be on the phone with unhappy people all day long. They're going to be miserable. Nobody's happy when their things don't work. So guess what? Here's what you need to do. You need to develop or work on your emotional intelligence. So work on, customer service skills. So you want to work as a cloud support associate? Great. Make sure you learn all those network and data center technologies and learn those same technologies in the cloud and get good at configuring those things in the cloud and get good at troubleshooting those things in the cloud. In some cases, I think it would be harder to learn how to do the support than it would actually learn how to be an architect. And again, I've been an architect for a long time. But I'll tell you this, it's going to be just as hard to learn how to do support as it is going to be an architect. It's just different sets of skills to learn. So that's what I would say. You still got to learn the network and the data center. There is no understanding any of this without knowing the network and the data center. But for you in support, it's going to take you a lot more knowledge of the configuration. So get real good at configuring, get real good at troubleshooting, and get real good with being emotionally intelligent, and get real good with having people give you calls of things that you can't imagine why they don't know, because that's it. So get really good at being non-judgmental and really good at making people happy, and you'll be very successful in support. And also make sure you get used to those 16 principles, because half of their hiring thing is people adhering or mentioning those 16 leadership principles when they actually go on an interview. So Chris, there was a question from Mike, which is a pretty important one that I want to bring up next. And then after that, Mike, I'm coming from a non-tech background. Can you take my course? The answer is yes. Your tech background doesn't mean anything to me. What means something to me is your attitude, energy, enthusiasm, and push. I didn't start in tech. I started out in healthcare. I loved healthcare. All my degrees are in healthcare and business. I've got one master's degree in healthcare and a master's degree in business, not in tech. I moved into tech 25 years ago, and it was the best thing I've ever done. I have people from non-tech getting tech jobs every day of the week. Here's what matters, Mike. It's never your background. What matters is, are you willing to do the job? What is your attitude, your energy, your enthusiasm, your passion for excellence? If you want to do it, you will win. Nobody's born a cloud architect. Nobody's born a doctor. Nobody's born a lawyer. They train. Nobody's born a gold medalist Olympian either. Now, granted, some people have an innate gift to learn things more than others, and that's great for the habit. But do you know who really wins? It's never the smartest. It's never the brightest. It's the person that works hardest. You know, when people go to the SEAL teams and you speak to SEALs and they go to BUDS, which is their basic underwater demolition service, which is, basically how they weed out people in their training program. Every SEAL that you speak to will say it's never the Olympian, it's never the professional athlete, it's the toughest in their mind. I worked as a firefighter paramedic for years. I worked almost 100 hours a week while I was in school. I was poor, but I had to pay my way through school. I went to school almost 7 to 3. I worked 3 to 11 every day. And yes, I got to work late, about 30 minutes every single day. Then I worked 11 to 7, 3 days a week. And then I worked 16-hour days on Saturdays and Sundays. And I did it. And I got done school. And I was happy and I had a great career. So, Mike, your tech background does not matter. We'd love to have you in our course. All that I ask for is you do every project that you can with as much energy, enthusiasm, and passion for excellence as you can. You take my classes. You show up to the classes as often as you can. You put max effort and you will do wonderfully. It won't be hard to get you to your goals in the end. Just got to do the work. So, of course, you can take my class. We'd love to have you in the class. It's not about your background. It's about your energy, enthusiasm, and passion. You bring that to the table. You do everything with your heart and your mind and focus. You'll be successful. It's all that. In martial arts, they say it. It's true. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't try. I don't care about your background. I care about what's in your mind, what's in your heart, and the level of effort. Do that, you will always be successful in everything you do. Chris, I know there's a lot more over there. It's Anna Paley completed Azure certification, good, and live experience and some consulting experience, good. What is expected from a solutions architect who is having Azure knowledge? Identical to the solutions architect that has AWS knowledge, which is identical to the solution architect that has Oracle knowledge, which is identical to the solution architect who has Google knowledge. The ability for you to go meet with a client, ask the client their business, their legal, their technical goals, for you to be able to take all of that information, for you to go back and be able to design a technology solution that's going to improve that business's performance, whether it be increase sales, improve customer intimacy, whether it be to reduce expenses, whether it be to enhance productivity. And then you're designed to take that business goal and then go back with your team and figure out a technology architecture that will solve those problems. And after you design that technology architecture, you will write up that technology architecture, you will present that technology architecture to the customer, and you will convince the customer they need it. So just like I told the previous person that your job to become an architect is to ask the right questions, and by asking the right questions, being able to figure out what the customer desires, being able to then take the customer desires and going into your head with your head, which should be full of business and technology knowledge, and taking that to craft and design a solution on one or more clouds, and then presenting that back to the customer, that is the job. So Azure, AWS, Google, completely irrelevant, identical job. And guess what? Don't study for one, learn them all. There is no such thing as an Azure architect or an AWS architect. Well, that's not true. There is one such thing. If you work for AWS, you are an AWS solutions architect. And if you work for Azure, you're an Azure architect. If you work for anything else, literally speaking, anything else, then it's still the same job. Architects are all about designing systems to improve an organization's business performance. The type of architect you are determines what you do. If you're a solution architect, it's typically just with one vendor. So Azure, AWS. If you're a cloud architect like me, it's typically across multiple clouds at the same time. If you're an enterprise architect, like I've done in half of my life, it's about digital transformation with all of an organization's systems, not just the cloud system. And if you've done any business architecture like I have as well, It's about meeting with the CEO, figuring out their business, and redesigning their business processes for things. See, architecture is just all about new design. And all architecture takes is extreme knowledge of business and extreme knowledge of those things that you're manipulating. So this is not a job where getting certified gets you hired at all. This is a job where getting the knowledge of transforming businesses is what gets you hired. So hope I answered your question there. Dexter UML, do you need to be familiar with all cloud forms as a cloud platform, as a cloud architect? You must be familiar with the cloud. So goes back to the car. Do you get a special training for the Honda and special training for a Mercedes and special training for a Toyota and special training for a Volkswagen? Or do you learn the principles to drive a car? Now, I don't know about you. I learned how to drive a car. I don't get special training for each thing. So Dexter UML, when you learn the network in the data center and you learn the cloud, you learned all cloud platforms all at the same time. Remember, the cloud is just a network and a data center that's virtualized. The cloud is lower performance than the traditional network in the data center, but it's agile and it's fast and it's so cool because of the agility. Remember, lower performance, but higher agility. So let's really think about this. If you know what a network load balancer is, Dexter, you know it in the data center, the AWS cloud, the Oracle cloud, the Azure cloud. If you know what an application load balancer is, you know it for all the clouds too. So don't learn the name of every single service in every cloud. Don't do that at all. Learn what you're actually doing, and it works in every cloud. Now, I don't know, Dexter, if you speak any other languages. I'll tell you, I do. So when I speak other languages, like when I go to Greece, I don't have a thought in English and then translate my English sentence to Greek. It's not going to, some things just don't translate. And even if I did, it would take forever. I go to Greece and I order my food in Greek. I think in Greek. And when I come home to America, I think in English. So these are one of those ways that I do that. So Dexter, learn the underlying systems and you know all the clouds. So yes, you have to be able to work on all clouds, Dexter. There's no such thing as just an AWS solution anymore. About 30 years ago, I remember building network designs that only had networking from, say, MCI WorldCom. Now, what was the problem with that? If WorldCom had a problem on their network, the whole network would go down. But that was 30 years ago. So what did people do? They would use WorldCom and NTT or WorldCom and Verizon, two providers. And then you know what? It started with just AWS, but now it's AWS, Azure, and Google, and Oracle. Everybody's using them all, and organizations are now building their own clouds, Nutanix clouds, OpenStack, Ansible clouds. Every one of my students builds a cloud. So be familiar with the cloud, and then you automatically know all platforms. Don't try and learn one platform and then the next, because it'll be too hard to do. Chris, please feel free to bring in the next question. Shakir, hi Mike, can you get the knowledge of the Certified Solution Architect exam and go straight to the Certified Solution Architect Professional? Sure, you can. I don't know why you would, but you could. So there's no reason not to. I did it with the Google one. For fun, I wanted to test our AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional training course. So what I said to my partner, I said, if our AWS Certified Solution Architect training is good, I should be able to go take the Google Professional Cloud Architect exam, a cloud which I don't even use very often, and take the exam and pass it with 2 days notice. My partner said, Mike, you're crazy. You know, it's a different cloud. It's all this stuff. And I said, if you know one cloud, you know them all. So I ordered the Cybex book, the Google Professional Cloud Architect book. It showed up on a Saturday. It showed up on a Friday. I did not let myself open the book until Saturday morning at 7 a.m., which is when I woke up. I didn't read it past 3 p.m. that day. The next day, I woke up at 7, read to 3. On Monday, I took the Google Professional Cloud Architect exam and passed it in a minute. Well, about 45 minutes. It was a nothing exam. But see, I knew the cloud. That's why it was a nothing exam. That's why I could do it in 2 days. So Shakir, if you really know the cloud, you can go straight for the Certified Solution Architect Professional. But you have to know the cloud. Now, I will caution you on that Certified Solution Architect Professional. It's not a complicated exam per se, but the way the questions are asked are enormously challenging. So I would say, for that exam, make sure you've got a practice exam, because you got to get used to the way these questions are asked. The hard part of the exam is reading these questions is enormously challenging. those questions are poorly written and like 3 paragraphs long with poor grammar. And let me tell you, reading those questions is going to be a challenge. Being able to answer them, not so much, but being able to read them and interpret them, oh my God, that's where the challenge is on that exam. So, just get used to AWS exams first. If you don't do the associate first, then you go straight to the professional, no big deal. Just make sure you pass it. Okay, Chris, if you want to put up the next question. Ken Voybent, you have a master's degree in IT management. Okay, but you want to switch to cloud computing. What do I suggest? Well, Ken Voy, I don't exactly know the kind of job you want to do in cloud computing. And the reason I say that is if you want to be an engineer or an architect, they're very, very, very different jobs. So I'll tell you what to do if you wanted to be an architect, and then I'll tell you what you could do to be an engineer, since we don't know. And this would probably be beneficial for everyone. If you want to be a cloud architect, the easiest thing to do, of course, is to take our program. But what do you need to do as an architect? You're going to still need to learn the following. You must learn the network in the data center because none of that is covered in school. And for that, it's going back to the same concepts. Learn routing protocols, BGP, OSPF, exterior BGP, internal BGP. Learn that. Learn layer 2 things such as spanning tree, rapid spanning tree VLANs, VLAN trunking, VLAN tagging protocols, learning that, all of these kinds of things. So IP addressing, IP management, learn all of that. Then learn all the data center tech, the servers, the server virtualization, the containers, the firewalls, the load balancers, DNS, learn all of that. Then, assuming you want to be in the architecture world, now you've got to learn great presentation skills, and these are much more than they typically teach in an MBA program. I mean, we need much more than that. We need real business knowledge. We need real executive presence, real executive communication skills, real emotional intelligence. This is what we're doing now to go straight there to be an architect. Now, by comparison, if you wanted to be a cloud engineer, Convoy, we have to do a totally different set of training. For the cloud engineer, we want to teach you a little bit about the network in the data center because you still need to know what the systems are. Now, remember, the cloud architect is a designer, and the cloud architect is kind of a business executive mixed with the technology professional. The cloud engineer is a 100% pure technology professional. So for this cloud engineer, now we're talking about different things. For the cloud engineer, now it's learning, the cloud, but now it's learning about configuring the cloud. So that cloud engineer is not an architect, they're not a designer, they're a builder. So that cloud engineer is going to be on that command line, on that console, on that API, literally all day, every day. They're going to be the person that's hunched over on the computer that's typing feverishly. The cloud engineer, because of this, is going to have to learn how to make themselves more efficient. The cloud engineer is going to need to learn to code. The cloud engineer is going to need to learn Python. The cloud engineer is going to need to learn JSON. The cloud engineer is going to learn how to get used to YAML templates. The cloud engineer probably should know some automation tools like Terraform. The cloud engineer is going to be a configurer. So Kenvoy, and you listen to this, it almost sounds like it's harder to become a cloud engineer, and the answer is it is. So it's all based upon what you like. So, that's how you would build a cloud engineering career. And like I said, versus the cloud architecture curve, we kind of showed you how to do both. Now, there's other careers like DevOps, which I could tell you how to do as well, but they're different careers. So when someone says they want to switch to cloud computing, the key is what career, and that's why that was the first question I asked you. Because Kenvoy, keep this in your mind. Every job that exists outside the cloud exists on the cloud. Software developers have the same job in the cloud. It doesn't change. DevOps engineers, for example, off the cloud, very similar to DevOps engineers in the cloud, pretty much the same. You got a data scientist off the cloud, guess what? They're a data scientist on the cloud. It's not that much different. So the question is, what do you want to do in cloud computing? Now, I gave you how to be a cloud architect versus a cloud engineer. But remember, a lot of these other jobs, it's almost the identical job from the data center to the cloud. Because what? Guess what? The cloud is nothing new. The cloud is just a data center and a network, just virtualized. Look at it this way. And when people ask me what is cloud computing, I say, you know, these big buildings filled with computers, and they're like, that nice I called the data center. Yeah, here's the cloud. You just rent somebody else's data center, and they virtual, and they're like, oh, that's all it is. Yeah, so that's all it is. So you want to switch to cloud computing? Figure out which career you want. I've given you the two of the biggest ones that we see: the cloud engineer and the cloud architect. But you got to tell me which career you want, and then I can help you. Okay, Chris, if you want to bring up the next one or ones. Smart guy, how to switch to cloud computing by passing certifications. Certifications will do nothing for you other than help you get an interview. You're a newbie. Also, so how can you become an experienced? Where to get the experience also? You have the CCSK and the ISC CCSP. What other certs do you need? You want to risk management in the cloud instead of being an architect. Smart guy, I don't know what you mean by risk management. Typically speaking, risk management is done by lawyers. So if you tell me what you want to be with regards to risk management, you can tell me. Now, there's security people, which have to do with risk, but architects also have to do with risk with regards to availability. So I don't know what you mean by risk management. So if you can give me a little more information with that, then I can tell you, because otherwise risk management means I'm going to say you need to be a lawyer, because 90% of the risk management people in technology are attorneys. So if you give me more information, I might be able to help you. But what I can tell you is certifications will not get you any job. Not now. Well, that's not true. There is one certification that can get you a job. If you do the Cisco Certified Internet Expert and you study it honestly and legitimately, and you're not taking a training program and exam dumps, that will give you enough knowledge to get hired because it's got a big practical exam. But outside of the Cisco Certified Internet Expert, and like I said, if you learned it the hard way and you really read everything and you didn't use an exam dump, other than that, but I have no idea what actual kind of risk management job you want. And until that, I really can't guide you, because I could guide you in a career that could literally take an extra 10 years of your life. So that's how important it is when we design systems. As architects, we need really good information, because without good information, we can't design them. As doctors, if we don't get good information from our patients, we make mistakes. And as career guidance people, which is no different than architecture, if we don't have good input. So I don't know what you mean by risk management. So let me know, and we'll come back to you. You're a newbie, so how do you become an architect? So you got two questions in there that I'm not really sure. How do you become an architect? How do you become an architect is very simple. You learn the network, you learn the data center, you learn the business communication skills, the cloud skills, the executive presence, the emotional intelligence. We've got a complete program for that. Our program is called the Cloud Architect Career Development Program, and we've got a special sale going on right now that my team has posted. That's the way we do it. Otherwise, you could learn the network, you could learn the data center, and of course, you're going to get experience. Where do my students do it? My students get experience with us. My students all have a Go Cloud Architect section on their resume, and all of my students actually get real architect and real data center background, because you have to get some. What do my students do? They VPN into our data center. They set up server virtualization for enterprise-wide computing. My students set up containers for enterprise-wide computing. Our students set up and build firewalls for enterprise-wide security. Our students then set up VPN concentrators for enterprise-wide remote access. Our students set up Active Directory for enterprise-wide identity and access management. My students all build the LAMP stack for web apps. My students all set up NFS and Samba file sharing for enterprise-wide file sharing. My students all build their own clouds, and they all have a resume section for it. So that's where my students get experience from. Inside of our training program, it's effectively like there's a mini internship program, which gives students the ability to say all of the things that they've done, which gives them the equivalent of 5 to 10 years of experience. Plus, my students have huge portfolios of architectural designs they've done when they're completed. But if they keep the designs and write them up, and then we've got big capstone architectures that my students do. So that's how my students get experience. So you've got two options. Take a program like mine, or go buy yourself a huge server, minimum of 16 cores, minimum of 128 gigs of RAM, 3 SSD drives in a RAID 0 environment or an NVMe drive, and on this server, do the following. Set up server virtualization, build some containers, build some firewalls, build VPN concentrators, set up Active Directory, build the LAMP stack. You can't do this stuff on the cloud because they won't let you do half of it, because they block you from doing it. So you're going to need a physical server. Set up Active Directory and build yourself a cloud. I mean, seriously, build yourself a cloud. Set up your cloud, your networking, set up the control plane, set up the data plane, set up the cloud storage. Once you've built a cloud, once you know how to build AWS or Azure or GCP from scratch, once you know how to build their environment, you're a cloud architect. All my students do, every last one of them. So that's how I recommend experience. That's what my students do. And that's how they can tell the employer, look, I have experience, because nobody cares about whether you can set up an EC2 instance or configure an S3 bucket. But they do know that care that you can build a cloud, that you know the cloud. So that's how you get experience that hiring managers want. That's what we do with our students. You can do it with us for less than the cost of the server and still learn how to be trained to be an architect, or you can go buy a server like this. In either case, it'll give you experience. If you're having a good time, so we know you're paying attention, if you could put hashtag cloud hired in the chat box, we know you're here. Angelicious9, hi Mike, you're working as a network security engineer. That's a world I know a lot about. You manage most of the network and security devices. How do I proceed to become a solution architect? I'm just a newbie with cloud product. Well, that is a good spot, Angelicious9, or Angelicious9. You're working as a network security engineer. This is good. This tells me, ideally, you've got some knowledge of the internet protocol. Ideally, this tells me you've got knowledge of firewalls, next generation firewalls, intrusion detection, intrusion prevention systems, VPN concentrators, VPN technologies, IPsec, hashing algorithms. I would assume you know some of these things. I would also assume you know QoS. If you're really doing heavy-duty network security work, you've also learned routing, and you've learned how to filter routes, because you can't hack something for which you don't have a route. You probably got pretty good use to IAM and AAA. You probably got some knowledge of radius servers as well as Active Directory. You're probably good at packet filtering technologies. And hopefully you understand BGP, and hopefully you understand OSPF if you're doing network security. At least I did as a network security engineer. So there's that. Now, the next question is, how much of the network do you know? Do you know network design? If the answer is great, yes, the answer is great. Can you design systems? Because you're going to have to design systems. Then you design security systems. So typically speaking, when I've got someone like you, what I typically do is as follows. I typically work with their internal strengths. So the best way to build yourself an elite tech career is to focus on your strengths. So if you've got a security background and you wanted to go to the cloud, it would probably be better to make you a security architect, like a cloud security architect. Now, you don't have to, but let's just assume we did for right now. So let's say you came into a program like ours and we were speaking with you. The first thing we would say is, okay, to be an architect, you've got to know that network in the data center. You've got to know all those cloud services. You've got to know end-to-end system design. And we would teach you that. And if you're on your own, you still need to learn that. Now, we're cheaper and we're faster. I believe we're better at it than anybody else in the world. But in either case, you've got to do that. So make sure you understand those design elements from the network and the data center that we keep talking about. The containers, the virtualization, all of it. You got to understand how all those components work. So after you learn that, now, also, if you're a security engineer, we could upgrade that to a security architect. So as the security engineer, it might be more malware protection or endpoint protection. As a security architect like me, it's that end-to-end system design. So if we were to take a portfolio like yours, and basically first thing we would do is we have to do the knowledge profile, the certification profile, and then the get hired profile. The knowledge profile would be making sure you've got deep, deep, deep knowledge of networking, security, and data center. That's the knowledge profile. Knowledge of architecture and security architecture, deep. That's the knowledge profile. Next is your certification portfolio. We would typically do something like a certified solution architect professional. We would typically marry that with a CEH master or a CISSP, something good or something really strong that's going to go deep security and architecture. We typically would do those. Then the next part of it is the architect piece. Now, the architect piece is the other 80%. Architects are 50% technical. Actually, they're probably 40% technical and 60% business, but 50-50. But remember, the architect job is at least half, maybe more, non-technical. So this is where we've got to focus on that business acumen. You've got to know businesses, how businesses work, what drives businesses, how businesses become profitable, the businesses knobs, how businesses can increase sales, how businesses can reduce expenses, how to improve the communication between customers and the business. That's part of it, part of the plan, and this is some of the things we teach. Next thing that are really, really critical to learn in the same category are presentation skills, sales skills, ROI modeling, executive presence, emotional intelligence, writing, speaking, and presenting to the things that CXOs care about, and dealing with all these executive personalities, these crazy executive personalities, which include the following of intuitive types like me, functional types and analytical types, and being able to communicate across visual, auditory, and kinesthetic types. These are the skills of being an architect. It's not just tech, but if you do these things, you will become a wonderful secure cloud architect or a cloud security architect. Now, you don't have to go down that cloud security path if you don't desire to. Why did I say it? Because when you've got two things that you can combine in a laser-like focus, you become a rare commodity. And the more rare you are, the greater the salary you will receive. Look at it this way. If you've ever taken economics, you remember these supply and demand curves, that the greater the supply, the lower the cost, the greater the demand, the higher the price. Well, I'm going to tell you this. When it comes to the cloud is inherently less secure than the data center. That's right. You heard me say it. The cloud is a data center, but the cloud has a control plane, which is one more thing to be hacked. So let's say the cloud is 1% because that control plane less secure than the data center. That on tech. Now let's pull back the tech. Now let's say if you're a hacker, who are you going to hack? Go Cloud Careers with its small number of employees, or AWS. If you attack AWS or Azure, like Azure got hacked last month, you now have access to all their clients. So you've got a system that's, let's say, equivalent security, although the cloud's just like 1% less. But let's say they're equivalent. Now you've got every smart hacker in the world trying to hack the cloud. Cloud security is where it's going to be. So cloud security. Did you know the cloud gets hacked every day, and 16% of these hacks are just related to misconfigured S3 buckets? Azure had a massive hacking attack a couple times recently. Lots of customers things. So cloud architects like me or you that have lots of knowledge in security are going to be advantaged. So you'd be in a great position. Those are my recommendations for you. Chris, if you want to bring up the next one. Smart guy. So risk management means working with an architect on how to secure it. Okay, risk management. Smart guy, there is no risk management person that works with an architect on how to secure it. There is a cloud security architect that works with a cloud architect and talks about how to secure it, but there's no risk management person. So that's just another form of architect. The risk management people are the lawyers. The lawyers will determine, what is the cost of a breach. And they do this analysis constantly. They say, for example, if we get attacked and it costs us approximately $100 per person to notify the average organization, for example, that they've been they've been hacked, and we get hacked as an organization, it's going to cost us $138 million. Then the organization the organization will then say, if brand damage is $138 million and it cost us $800 million to actually secure our environments, guess what? We actually don't want to do the security because it's cheaper to pay out the legal fees. And that's why legal people are doing that. So there is no such thing as a risk management architect or risk management person. There are lawyers that determine, like, if somebody dies, what's it going to cost? That's risk management. And for the most part, you have to be a lawyer for that. Now, what you're talking about is working with an architect on security. That's what cloud security architects do, smart guy. Architects do not configure. Architects are designers. So a cloud security architect is the person that goes and helps the cloud architect design a system that's going to be secure. So they're the people that determine what the firewall architecture needs to look like, what the IDS system needs to look like. These are the architects that determine what the training of the people need to do to avoid malware, to avoid phishing. These are the people that are actually going out there and asking people and changing their behavior. So that's what an architect is, smart guy. We're architects, we never configure anything ever, we design them. A cloud security architect is the person that designs the end-to-end security for the cloud. How do you become a cloud security architect? The same way. First, you need to become a cloud architect because you can't secure what you don't understand. So that means learning the network and the data center. Then it means learning security, which means learning a lot more about how to lock systems down, which means much more learning into IP for the packet, what's going on with the packet. It's learning about the flow of the data. It's learning where you can block it. For example, how do you lock down an enterprise? Like with your DDoS protection, followed by your firewalls, followed by your IDS, IPS systems, followed by your ACLs, followed by your security groups, followed by what you're doing on the host, like disabling unnecessary services and patching them and anti-malware, what have you. That kind of architecture, that's what we cloud security architects do. Those are the people that are doing what you desire. The only people that ever configure anything are cloud engineers and security engineers. Architects are designers. So the job you're asking about is what's called the cloud security architect. Now you know what architects are. So hope I answered your question there. In fact, as we're talking about security, I want to let you guys know, and myths that exist on the cloud, and it sounds like a lot of these myths, honestly speaking, a lot of these myths that are out there have been perpetuated again and again, and one of them is with regards to security. So today we actually made a new video. Chris from my team will pop the video in the link. Please feel free to watch that video, like and comment on that video. And from there, you'll learn all kinds of things that you can learn about that. So I'll mention that to my team. But now you know. Now you know what a cloud security architect is. It is a great job. Mr. Parnwar, you've completed the Cloud Practitioner certificate. What kind of role will you apply for the job? Well, this is a very hard one for me. The only jobs that you could potentially apply for as the Cloud Practitioner are cloud sales. That is a certification I wish AWS would do away with. The AWS Cloud Practitioner is sort of like the AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate minus 10%. And what I will tell you is this certification, though, is on your way to something that will help you get an interview. I hate to say this, but I'm going to say it again. Certifications alone do not get anybody hired. Certifications alone will get you an interview. So if I was you, I would go from the AWS Cloud Practitioner certificate you have. I would work really hard, and I would learn the network and the data center, and then I would learn the cloud. After I learned the cloud, I would then also upgrade that certification. I would upgrade that certificate. Well, actually, since there's really nothing we can do right now with the with the Cloud Practitioner, other than sales, we could use that Cloud Practitioner as a stepping stone towards engineering or maintenance roles like SysOps or DevOps roles, or also sales roles. And we could also, for example, migrate you into different roles. So if you kind of let me know what you're interested in, I could help you take that Cloud Practitioner that you have that you worked hard on and teach you how to upgrade that and get you something that'll really get you hired, that'll get you taken care of, compensate you well, and make you really happy. So instead of saying, okay, you've got a certification, what role could you do? If you could tell me what role you would actually like, I can help take you to get there. Certifications just don't get anybody hired on their own. They're not enough. So the key isn't what certification you have, what job you can do. It's what job do you desire, and then I'll help you find the best, fastest, and cheapest way to get there. So if you let me know that, I can answer that. But unfortunately, I can't just say you've got a certification. And even if you had the Certified Solution Architect Professional, I still wouldn't be able to get you a job either with just that. I'd need to know more. So like I said, tell me what you want to do, and then I can tell you how to get there. Smart guy, how long are our courses? Our courses are as follows. Our Cloud Architect Career Development Program is 16 weeks for those people that actually have technology background and experience. That same course is approximately 6 to 8 months for those people that don't have experience. It takes longer for me to train someone without experience than it does with experience. So I keep them in the program longer, and we put them through more training and more architecture and more live classes. Our course themselves, our cost of the course is about the same as a cloud architect earns every single day of the week. We did this so that we could be someone that could really help an organization. I could easily charge $25,000 for this course and it would be a huge value, but instead we do one day. But even if we charge $25,000, not the $750 that we're charging this week, if we could raise someone's income by $100,000 a year every year for the rest of their life, and it's pretty common for us to do that, even at $25,000, it would be cheap. But we're doing it for $750, and we're doing it because we don't need to work. I'm a completely retired person. I came out of retirement to help you guys get hired. I saw the certification courses that were out there, and I knew you guys needed more, so I came out of retirement to do it. So our courses are 16 weeks or as a rule, if you've got experience, and upwards of 8 months if you don't. We have 2 live sessions per week for which you can ask questions via Zoom. In between these 2 live sessions, there's projects you do, everything from building your resume to salary negotiation to interview projects. You do these projects, you turn them in, and we give you feedback. We also have a lab component where you come into our data center so you can get experience. And you do everything from setting up server virtualization to building your own clouds. We have 250 recruiters in our system to help you get hired when you are done. And the answer is yes, yes, yes. We basically have the ability to help you get hired. Like I said, even on Friday, we're going to have some of the recruiters that we use actually just on our YouTube channel. So yes, we have job placement. I will call recruiters for my students, so my students do the following: show up for classes, do their work, and are ready to get hired. I say this because there were people that wanted to pay me large sums of money just to say that they were students of mine. I can't do that. But we've got a great team of people to help you get hired in the end, assuming you do the work. They ask me every day, Mike, who's ready for a job? Who's ready for a job? Who's ready for a job? And I tell them when my students get hired. There's not a day that goes by where I don't get notified that someone just got a job. And it's pretty exciting for me too. So 16 weeks. Yes, we help with job placement, and I hope I answered your questions. Tide, hello again. You mentioned how you're 18 last time. Wow, that's great. I remember being 18. You're currently enrolled in a data analysis bootcamp. Okay. And you were thinking after getting employment, you could take my course. You absolutely could, and that would be totally fine. You're trying to avoid university because you can believe you can gain experience in the 4 years instead of being in school. Any advice would help greatly. Thank you. So I will tell you, data analytics is great. Anything in data is good, but realistically speaking, anything in the data field, trying to do it without a master's degree or a PhD is going to be really, really tough. In fact, I have so many data scientists that actually come to me afterwards to try and learn cloud computing so they can actually get these jobs on the cloud. So what I will say, Tide, I am not a data analyst expert. And I will tell you, those jobs with data, generally speaking, are very, very hard to get. Now, I also think those data jobs are very good. So here's what your challenge is going to be. First, you're 18. At 18, it's going to be, we have to go to extreme efforts to make someone believe, for example, that a student is actually capable when they're less than 25. So that's hurdle number 1. So you are going to need to spend extreme efforts on emotional intelligence, executive presence, and communication skills, because you're going to have to stand out from the crowd. 2, without a university degree, you are going to have to focus on being the best you can be. So if you're doing some of these data analytics things, make sure you build yourself a portfolio. So if I was you, I'd probably be the guy, and I am the guy, that would have a Threadripper system with a bunch of Quadro cards in it so that you can be doing all kinds of data projects, assuming you're in that data science world, data analytics world. Build a portfolio of work and a body of work. Then build some writing. Make sure you start writing things to make the world know that you exist and make it better than anything else that exists out there. So if your communication skills are good and your presentation skills are good and your interview skills are good and your knowledge is good, because now you're going to have to be, because you're 18, you have no degrees, and you want to compete, you're going to have to be better, far better than people that have 5 and 10 years worth of experience. Can you do that? I don't know. I've seen people do it successfully. So you can do it if you work hard. By hard, I mean 16 hours a day. If you're going to skip that university, And you can skip that university. And if you were 35 years old and you told me you had no university behind you, I'd say no big deal. I could work with that. It's easy. But if you're 18 and you have no university, it's going to be really, 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 really hard. I mean, really hard. So those would be the things that I would recommend. If 6 months from now you don't have a job, I would come to somebody like me to try and get hired, or go back to school and try and get hired. But I would be real serious that every day that you're not working as a good cloud architect is $600 a day lost. Every day that you're not working as a data scientist could potentially be something like that. You say data analyst, I say I'm not sure if you mean data analyst, data scientist, but whatever the case is, a lot of these data jobs are really hard, and they're going to be a lot harder at 18, because at 18, the assumption is you're not going to know what the data is to actually advise the business on it. Your salary and data is not your ability to calculate the data. That's not so hard. Your ability is to analyze the data and explain the data to someone so they know what to do about the data. So that's typically why you're looking at those MBAs or PhDs as someone that can run the statistical analysis, someone that can actually understand the statistics and then explain it to others. So if you're doing something with data and you're doing something with degrees, get really good with those statistics. Get really good at explaining the meaning. What are those p-values? What are those ANOVAs? What are all these kind of things? What are derivatives and statistics? What are the multivariate statistics and calculus and all these other kinds of complex math? That's the kind of stuff you're going to have to be not only great at, but then you're going to have to be the great mathematician that then can explain these things to others. That is the secret for data, for doing well in data. And the way I feel about school is mixed. Like I said, if you were 30 and didn't have a degree, I'd say no problem. Do I think they would teach you anything in the university that would make you great? The answer is probably not. In fact, what they would teach you in the university may or may not be relevant. But what do you learn in the university? Hopefully how to write and hopefully how to learn. So you can try your success without the degrees. If you were 30 and you had some experience, I'd say no big deal. I'd say now try it, see where you go. If 6 months from now you don't have anything, if you don't have anything, come to someone like me or consider school. If 6 months from now you're working super hard and you're ready to get hired and you're progressing and you're doing great in your career, then great. Keep building your skill set and you'll be good. But if not, give yourself a backup plan. Don't just keep doing the same thing again and again. And if it's not working, change your tactics. And if it is working, double down on what's working, because you could be one of those people that works really hard and is focused. And if it's working, keep doing it. But monitor your progress. If you're progressing in an upward direction, great. If it's horizontal, change your tactics. That's my advice for you. Dr. Ops, suggestions on new projects, please. My suggestions are the same ones my students do. My suggestions, if you want anything to do with cloud computing, especially as an architect, you need either take a course like mine or buy a server. Server must have 16 cores minimum of 128 gigs of RAM and 3 SSD drives in RAID 0. You must be an expert on server virtualization. So if you're not in my course where all of this is included, go buy a server that meets those specs. At least 3 years old, no more than 7 years old. After you are done that, the next thing that you need to do, set up server virtualization, build containers, build firewalls, build VPN concentrators, build the LAMP stack, set up network file system shares, NFS shares, set up Samba shares, set up Active Directory, build a cloud, federate your cloud to the Active Directory server. These are the kind of things that employers are going to care about. Build the network, play with some EVE-NG, do some networking things on the same server. This is what my students do, and my class is half the price of the server, by the way. But whatever the case is, this is what you actually need to do. These are the kind of projects that you put on your resume. These are not, I'm not going to tell my students to set up an EC2 instance. Any of my students do it. I've taught an 8-year-old little girl how to set up an EC2 instance, and she is cute. Trust me. She does the clicks and she says EC2 and it is magical. But I, as an employer, I'm not going to pay somebody $150,000 to $300,000 a year to do what this cute little eight-year-old girl was taught to do in 3 minutes. But I will pay you to design my systems. I will pay to make sure that my systems work. Look at it this way. People used to ask me, Mike, Why are your salaries of your students so much higher? Why are you graduating? Why are you getting paid more? Why is it people are willing to pay so much for just the tech? And I said, it's not the tech. I said, when you're right and you're trained right and you know it right, you are a strategic advisor. You are able to take a CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company and you are able to generate billions of dollars of profit for them by improving their technology. This is what architects do. We transform businesses. So why am I wanting to get this kind of real experience? You can't advise people if you don't know. So these are the kind of projects. That's why I say setting up an EC2 instance is not transformational. Building a website is not transformational. Knowing how to design an end-to-end system that won't be hacked is transformational. Knowing how to get the business and the customers closer to each other is transformational. Helping employees work from home with a greater level of productivity than working in the office is transformational. Think about all that real estate the organization can save. Being able to use the cloud to take a company that has 50,000 remote access connections, meaning let's say you've got a manufacturer and all the part suppliers are there. That's transformational. What makes an architect so great? They transform the business. That's why architects are great. That's why organizations pay architects. So if you want to be great, learn the transformation, learn the business acumen. Hands-on for architects is design. Hands-on can be a dinner meeting. Hands-on can be, entertaining a client. Hands-on is presenting that back to the client, convincing that client how your technology design can and will improve that business. Then having your implementation and engineering team deliver that architecture and build it, and having that architecture truly transform that business. That is what architects do. That's why these projects are based upon transformation that I'm giving you. If you can learn how to transform an organization, that organization succeeds, you will have the best architecture career in the world. So now you know about the transformation. Now you know why these are the labs that I'm recommending. Hope I answered your question there, Dr. Ups. Hish, you read somewhere that there will be a free CCNA bootcamp. So Hish, here's the thing. Right now, we're determining which bootcamp to do next. We're either going to do another AWS Advanced Networking or a CCNA bootcamp. And what we're going to do is have a voting competition. And we're going to have it on our website. We will cover both courses, but we're going to have a voting competition. We love doing competitions on our website. Why do we love competitions? The world is a competition. And when it comes to you applying for a job, well, not applying for a job, we use recruiters and get you go straight to the hiring manager. But when it comes to when you're interviewing for a job, it's a competition. If you win, someone else has to lose for the same job. If they win, you lose. So it's a competition. What do organizations love? Competitive people. What do we love as performance coaches? Competitive people. So coming up, and it'll be posted on our website very soon. Chris from my team can basically tell me the date, and then I'll tell everybody when it's appropriate. We're going to have a competition for the AWS Advanced Networking and the CCNA, and that will be the first one. We'll probably do both. I am one of the original Cisco certified internet experts. In fact, my CCIE number is 7417. So that's exactly how much networking I love. The competition, I'm being told, from my team will begin this weekend. So make sure you check out the www.gocloudcareers webpage. Guess what? There's really exciting things coming. We are going to have a lot more current events coming at you very soon. We'll leave it a little open. You can check us out on any of our social media pages. We are starting our first podcast, and it's coming real soon. And we're super excited about it. I've got a full team working on a podcast. I spoke to them last night. It was like 10 o'clock at night, and I'm hearing the podcast music with the podcast audio, and I am really excited. And I've expanded my team. We're bringing in more people so we can bring more content to you, more training content, more training, more education, more architecture. And even non-architecture courses are coming. We only teach what we're experts in. For example, I've been an architect for 25 years, so I teach architecture. But my good friend Sandeep Das is going to make a DevOps engineering program with us, with my expertise on getting hired and his expertise. Guess what? IT Excel and we're making an interview course. The course is completely filmed. I've worked with one of my old students that I coached. He now worked for he spent the last several years at Red Hat. And he's building a Linux for cloud computing course, and we're really excited about that. And we have so many more exciting things coming your way. So free CCNA bootcamp, yes, it's definitely coming. But competition over whether we do an AWS Advanced Networking or a CCNA as the next one, it's up to you. Type hashtag Cloud Hired in the window. We know you're going to be here. And you keep telling us what you want and we'll do it. Hish, who do you talk to about this program before you enroll? You didn't see any customer support number. Our phone number is posted on our website, but we will post it over here as well. You can call us at this number, 973-896-4889. I just posted it in the chat window. And guess what? You can reach out to us on this number. If you're outside the US, we will reach out to you on on WhatsApp. You can call us on this number and we will get back to you or answer it directly, me or someone from my senior staff. All of the senior staff, we pass the phone around. We don't use any kind of customer service reps. The phone will be answered by one of the executive team. We all pass the phone around to make sure that we give you guys the most accurate and correct answers at all times. Any other questions? Okay. So new, you're 36-year-old working as an IT executive. Good. Can you learn cloud architect and get a job in the computing field? Absolutely. Absolutely. The fact that you're an IT executive makes life even 50% easier. So it's not hard to get anybody one of these positions provided you write the right training. It seems hyper simple for me because I've been doing this for so long, so I may make light out of it. Becoming a cloud architect is not that challenging. It's a lot of work. There's a lot to learn, but when you know exactly what it is, it's not that bad. Why do people have such a hard time becoming cloud architects? I got to tell you, so right now I've interviewed 1,000 potential architects. And why was it so hard? For the most part, everybody that I've seen that tried to interview for an architect position had skills in everything else other than architecture skills. People want to be an architect so they learn coding, but we architects don't code. People want to be an architect so they learn sysops or maintenance, but we architects don't do maintenance. People want to learn to be an architect so they study DevOps. Again, we're not DevOps. People want to be an architect so they study Linux. Again, we're not Linux. We're the network and the data center. Linux knowledge is invalid. Data center knowledge matters. But the other place for so new people get themselves confused is they're mixing engineering and architecture careers. Engineering careers are all about building. Architecture careers are all about designing. Architecture careers are very executive careers. Lots of architects are VP and director level positions in places because they're at parity, and it's expected that these architecture roles, you have that level of executive presence, enthusiasm, emotional intelligence, business acumen, the exact same thing that you need as an executive. So to me, it sounds like you've got a very good, strong background, actually, as it stands, by coming from an executive background. A background that is so much more in line with actually becoming a cloud architect than actually people that are coming from the engineering world. Now, we deal with engineers and we get them to be cloud architects all the time. We deal with sales reps and they become cloud architects all the time. Heck, I deal with medical professionals like me and become cloud architects all the time. Like I said, I went from practicing internal medicine to lead architect of the world's largest internet service provider with 6 months experience. So it can be done. But for you, with that kind of background, you're in a great position and you'd be one of the easy ones because you've got a lot of that IT executive background already. So absolutely the answer for you is some of you, yes. Hello, sir. You are from India and pursuing a BCA. I don't know what you mean by BCA. It could be a bachelor's degree, but it could be something else. And I don't want to make answers based upon assumptions or guesses. So if you tell me what you mean by BCA, I would be more than happy to answer you, but I have no idea what BCA means. Ty, do we have job placements in Canada? Of course, we've got recruiters in Canada. And yes, our recruiters in Canada will absolutely help people find jobs in Canada. Of course, we've got lots of recruiters in the US, lots in Canada. We have some recruiters in the UK too. We also have some recruiters in other countries, but I will say the majority of us are in the US or Canada or the UK. At least our recruiting teams. But yes, we have that, plenty of them. Okay, so you're working on a bachelor's degree. Can you become a cloud architect? The answer is yes. So I have a tremendous number of people that are doing the degrees while they're working with me. And I've been doing this for 20 years. I've worked with so many people that basically while they were in college, they worked with me in a program. And by the time they graduated school, they had incredible jobs. In fact, I've got about 3 or 4 people right now that are in college and working with me. One of them did such a good job that I actually hired him, and he's now working for me right now while he's still in college. That's exactly how much I like working with young, highly motivated people. And here's the thing. We hiring managers hire based upon capabilities. So if we see someone with a great degree of energy, attitude, and enthusiasm, we get excited. It is really, really hard to find someone that's that good. So, of course, while you're doing a bachelor's degree, you can study cloud computing. I strongly encourage you to do so. And that way, when you get done school, you'll have a job. Or better yet, you can potentially even get a job while you're in school. I've got lots of students that are doing it while they're in school. Some of them have even gotten cloud engineer, cloud architect jobs while they're in school. So the answer is yes. But generally speaking, if you're in school, I recommend finishing school because I think school is wonderful. And while you're in school, you can learn the cloud. You can get cloud certified. In addition to learning the cloud, and they're very different, certification is just a checkoff list. It's a ticket to the interview party where the knowledge is actually there. So yes, take training in the cloud and go to school at the same time. I did. Lots of people did. Look at it this way. People play a sport while they're in college, or people join a fraternity and go to a bunch of parties. Instead of going to a bunch of parties, or instead of doing what other people do, go there and get great. Learn the network, learn the data center, learn the cloud, learn your business skills, get presentation skills, join a Toastmasters, do lots of presentations, lots of writing. By the time you're done this, by the time you graduate, you'll be an expert. And you know what? If you do it right, you could build such a brand. You can do focused writing. I don't mean like a lot of sloppiness. I mean, publish 2 or 3 papers on something transformational about the cloud. Go give a guest speech about something transformational about the cloud. I mean, you can really, really, really do some truly amazing things by the time you graduate. And you'll have a name for yourself. I've done this constantly. I have many young people I've worked with. By the time they graduated school, they had a great job. By the time they were 22 and 23 years old, they had huge careers. They owned several houses. I mean, they were really in great positions. So it can be done. All you really have to do is try hard, put your attitude all focused on one thing, your energy all focused on one thing, literally 100%. The difference between a champion and an amateur is focus. What does an Olympic martial artist do? Martial arts. When they're not doing martial arts, they're doing conditioning. Maybe they're being stretched. Maybe they're getting a massage. Maybe they're doing metabolic conditioning or cardio. Maybe they're doing yoga for mobility or relaxation. Everything they do, their diet, their exercise is all focused on one thing. Want to be a champion? Focus all on one thing. The skills that are required for this, as I've mentioned, are the network, are the data center, their executive communication skills, their business acumen, ROI modeling, presentation skills, writing skills. These are architect skills. Cross between technical skills and pencil pushing skills, as I used to call it as a kid. Guess what? As an architect, I developed lots of writing, speaking, presentation skills, because that's what we do as architects. Those are the skills. Design, the network, and the data center. That's an architect. We're system designers. And the speaking, the writing, the presenting, the ROI modeling, that's the other half of our career. That's the 50%. So learn those both and you will be terrific. If you're having a good time, hit the like button. And do that. I've got to say this, in these years and years and years of lessons learned, I've had a really great time being an architect. And in my youth, I thought architecture was all about technical, but it's not. Architecture is about the transformation. It's really about the taking a business and making it perform better with technology. And that's why we architects are paid so well, as we transform businesses. And that's why we're so respected, because we transform businesses. Now, it upsets people like me that have taken pride in being an architect for decades, when people that have never been architects to think they can just train architects with certification courses, and they've perpetuated this false belief in people. So really, I care so much about your careers, and that's why I'm spending all this time to go out there and help you. You all can and will become great cloud architects. Every one of you that desires can. There's not a single person that can't. It's just a matter of making sure you learn the right skills. It's not just skills, they have to be the right skills. So please ask your questions. Please let us do what we can to help you. Please, if you love this field as much as I love this field, oh my God, you will have the best time in your life. I can't even begin to tell you how wonderful and magical a career like this can be. Anything you've ever dreamed of is great. I mean, I worked as an architect for a quarter century. I mean, I say I worked, but I don't think I worked for 2 minutes once. All I did is I had fun. So I want you to love it, and that's why I'm giving you this information. So Sun Yu, there are many cloud providers like Microsoft, AWS, Google, etc. Which one should we learn? Chris, please post a link to my video inside of this chat box for Sun Yu. Sun Yu, don't learn any of the clouds, learn the cloud. It's very simple. So Sun Yu, when you really know what the cloud is, remember, it's just a network and a data center that's virtualized. All the clouds are the same. It's not that which ones to learn, it's that you need to learn the cloud. If you learn object storage, and I have a video that I just made that's going to give you guys good knowledge of storage. We'll release it next week. But if you learn object storage, it's the same object storage on AWS when they call it S3 versus Microsoft where they call it Blob versus GCP where they call it cloud storage. If you need a NoSQL database and you want to manage NoSQL database, it is irrelevant whether you choose Google Cloud Bigtable or AWS DynamoDB. It doesn't matter. It's just a NoSQL database that's hosted. If you need a virtual machine, you need a virtual machine. All servers run on virtual machines or bare metal. So if you need a virtual machine, it doesn't matter whether it's sitting on a VMware ESXi server in your data center, an EC2 instance on AWS, a virtual machine on Azure, or a compute engine instance on Google. It's identical. So why do I find people struggle to become cloud architects? Why are people struggling to learn the cloud? Because what's going on is these cloud providers have taken all the cloud, which is nothing more than a network and a data center, which has been virtualized, and they've added all these fancy terms. Let's face it, a load balancer is just a load balancer. If you know what you're doing and you know that you need a network load balancer, choose a network load balancer. If it's called an Azure load balancer or an Elastic load balancer or a cloud load balancer, and Google calls it cloud, Azure calls it Azure load balancer, and Google and AWS calls it Elastic load balancer, it's all the same. So son, you don't learn any of the cloud providers. Learn the cloud and then master one of them and get certified in one just to prove you did it. But it doesn't matter which one. Which one should you get certified in? I recommend AWS or Azure. Why? They're the majority of the market. So get a certification in one to show. But beyond that, it doesn't matter. I mean, a professional photographer may prefer their Sony camera, but if they've got a Blackmagic camera for the day, they're going to make it work. Same kind of concept. Pick a home cloud provider, master that home cloud provider. But really what I need you to do is learn the cloud. Because whether it's the IBM OpenStack Ansible cloud, which by the way, every one of my students build, and I have one running in my house. I think it's the greatest thing in the world. I've got my own cloud running on OpenStack. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful cloud. But whether it's that cloud or a Nutanix cloud or today's world of just multi-cloud, learn the cloud. Don't learn a cloud, learn the cloud. And you'll be good to go. Brandon Bowman, Mike, work had me go through a few VMware vSphere courses. Brandon, I know you've got a great background in that. That's why you're such a great cloud architect. Should you go for the VMware certified professional data center virtualization now that you have the knowledge? You know, Brandon, that one wouldn't hurt. I don't think you need it, Brandon. You've got a pretty impressive resume, retired Marine working in security, lots of knowledge, some solid certifications. Do you need this? Probably not. Does the data center professional certification look really good for a cloud architect like you, Brandon? The answer is yes. Would it hurt you? The answer is no. Would it be a good one? The answer is yes. So, Brandon, in your particular case, I'd say this would be good. Now, I'm saying that because I know you, Brandon, and for you, This additional feather in your cap, this additional certification for you is great. Now, why do I say for you versus someone else? Generally speaking, after you reach a certain level of competency, and Brandon's competency is exceptional, you can max out your engineering world. So once you max that engineering world, where do you start playing? Your levers for career advancement. The first biggest one is emotional intelligence. That's your number one player for career advancement. Number two, once we get past emotional intelligence, now we're starting to think about, presentation skills, business acumen, executive presence. And again, Brandon's real solid there. So for him, this is good. But those would be my next levers that I would play with in someone's career. Then I'd start working on leadership skills, writing skills, all of that, because these are the levers. So to look at it this way, for the average person, let's say you've got someone with good cloud architect, cloud engineer skills, and let's say that's worth $120,000 a year. Let's say you upgrade those skills a little bit, you can maximize it to about 160 or 170 or maybe 180. That's kind of where you're going to max out the technical piece. But you can take that person that's earning $120,000 a year as a good solution architect, cloud engineer. You can really maximize their business acumen, their communication skills, executive presence, emotional intelligence, and take them from $100,000 to $400,000 a year. So when you start looking at your levers and where do you build your career, do you do it on the executive side or do you do it on the technical side? Well, it depends what you like. If you're like me and you really love presentations and business communication skills and leadership, you focus on those leadership skills. They're worth more financially. Now, if you love the tech and really love the tech, and there are times in your life where some people that just love the tech, focus on more tech. Brandon's 50-50. He can do either. And I know him, and that's why I'm giving him this advice. But if you're going to focus on the tech, make sure they're like, you see where Brandon's saying professional certification, professional certifications and expert certifications, yes. No more associate certifications, though. So try to not have 1,000,001 associate certifications. So Brandon, in your case, this would be a good one. But for everyone, I just want you to know why I said for Brandon this would be good. Whereas most people, remember, you can max out your tech, but the places where you've got more room to grow, more room to enhance your career is on the leadership communication side. I do both. Half of my life, I was Mr. Super Technical Architect. Half of my life, I was Mr. Leadership Architect. Both are good. Both are there. It's about what makes you happiest. And you know what I'm also going to tell you? What makes you happiest at one point in your life is going to be different than another point in your life. But as long as you're happy, that's what matters. That's the major component. What makes you happy? That's how you should pick something. Do we have any more questions here, Chris? If there's more questions, I am very happy to answer them. If we've answered all of your questions, we can end in a few minutes. So I will give you an extra chance to listen for questions. Otherwise, it looks like my team has given you kind of concept. It looks like my team has posted a link to our training and a special coupon. I will post our office number one more time because people actually ask for our office numbers. Let everybody know that, what do you call it? That today we have posted a new video, and I'd like to make sure everybody sees it. And tomorrow we will also have another video. Today our video is on myths and misconceptions of the cloud. It's something that we put out there just to try and help you guys understand, because people have it in their head. They're like, the cloud's going to be super cheap. Well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Or people are like, CapEx versus OpEx is good. Well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. It's about understanding what's going on. That's why you can't summarize an entire doctor career in a 200-page book. And that's why you can put all of the certified solution architect professional curriculum in 200 pages. You can't put an architect career in 200 pages or even 2,000 pages or even 20,000 pages. They're great jobs. We love them. They'll take great care of you and your family. So just understand what goes into them. So on Friday, we are going to have and the recruiters come back. Not sure which ones, but it'll almost exclusively be some executives from this recruiting firm. You can bring your resumes to this recruiting firm. They have a national staffing agency, and they need a tremendous number of DevOps engineers, cloud architects, cloud engineers, people from all walks of life. They need them. They've been helping my students find jobs for 20 years. They placed me in 2 of the 5 jobs I've taken, and they are some of the best in the industry. And because of these, yes, I work with them every single day. They're one of the most connected and plugged in recruiting firms I've ever met. You want to know what some hiring manager really wants for a job versus what's in that job description? These are your folks. You want to be put directly in front of the hiring manager and not blocked by HR? These are your folks. So we're talking about, bringing in the best and the brightest. They'll be here on Friday for you, and I'm super excited about it. Doesn't look like there's any more questions for me. If there's no more questions, we'll end this. And of course, we'll be back on Friday to answer any questions you may have. Thank you all so much, and it was such an honor and a privilege to be here with you today.